session. But anyway, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our June Circular Lunch Club. This one is called Circular Design in Practice with Sealand Gear. And yes, our case study today is Sealand Gear. This will be unpacking, actually. This is an interesting one because we'll be looking at the top three of the R ladder in the circular economy R ladder. So I'm very excited about this. And my name is Mark Lamani. I'm joined by Bryden Raw from Sealand Gear, who's the head of sustainability. He'll be unpacking how Sealand Gear puts circular design into practice. Before handing over to Bryden, I just want to talk a little bit about the session. If you're here for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. The Circular Lunch Club came from post-COVID, webinar fatigue, where there were so many long webinars, and we thought to create a short, bite-sized session where we could share our case studies and engage and hear the voices of our community, and also create a platform where we can connect and get to know each other. So, with that said, I really urge that everybody use the chat, the chat box, and just let us know who you are, where you're from, and also, if you're unmuted, please mute yourself, but leave your camera on because we want to see you. We want to engage. This is an informal session where we want to get to know each other. And also, there's a Q&A session at the end where we really encourage you to unmute yourself and ask questions and engage, and also connect amongst each other and get to know each other in the section in the room. And a little bit about us: we are Circular South Africa. We are a national platform designed to amplify the circular economy across South Africa. We're also here to connect organizations, initiatives, and practitioners working to advance a just circular economy in South Africa, guided by the three pillars: knowledge sharing and capacitation, facilitating partnerships and collaboration, and also scaling the circular economy. So you ask yourself, why the circular economy? So South Africa is obviously an extractive-based economy that has led to resource depletion, environmental degradation, and social inequalities. So the circular economy provides us with a regenerative alternative that can provide us economic health, human health, and environmental health. Guided by the four fundamental principles: design out waste and pollution, and keeping materials at their highest value, regenerating natural systems, and one that we value at Circular South Africa is benefit all members of society. So the circular economy cannot exist in silos. That's why it provides a cross-sectoral systems approach, which gives an opportunity of sectoral interconnectivity. And that's why we have sessions like this to actually have people from all sectors really collaborate and share knowledge and get to know a little bit more about the different sectors in the circular economy. So some facts about the textile waste in South Africa, it still ends up in landfill, with a very small percentage of it being recycled or reused. And looking at the different platforms that we have, like Shein and all this, where we can buy fast fashion at affordable prices, we end up buying more garments, which adds to the value stream that goes to landfill. So having circular design intervention in the fashion sector, that means that we can create more durable, reusable, repairable garments that can have an extended life cycle and reduce material loss across the value chain. And circular fashion systems also create local jobs and develop small businesses and reduce the demands of virgin materials. But we'll hear more about that in our presentation today. And just before handing over to Braden, I just want to tell you guys about the Circular Economy short course that is live and it's packed. It's a 4-hour course it's a fundamental circular economy fundamentals course. You also get a certificate at the end, and this really, it's an opportunity to increase your knowledge in circular economy. And if you email us on info@circular economy, we will chat to you around a discount for this course. So increase your knowledge about South African circular economy and take part in this course because you have lifetime access to this. So thank you so much, and over to you, Braden.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mark. Gabby, when you're able to, there we go. Cool. I'm going to get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Firstly, thank you so much to Circular South Africa for having me on this afternoon. It's an absolute privilege to be able to share a little bit about what we do and I guess give some insight into how we put circularity into practice. So I'd like to start off with a simple statistic, which Mark basically alluded to now, is that every year the global textile industry generates approximately 92 million tons of textile waste, and that's quite a scary number because it's equivalent to almost a truckload of textile waste being sent to landfill or incinerated every second for a whole year. And at the same time, less than 1% of that is recycled back into new garments. And when we hear those numbers, it's very easy to think that circularity is purely an environmental challenge of how do we solve this problem of all of this waste landing up in our environment. But today, I'd like to explore a slightly different take on circularity and that challenge. With along the lines of the theme, does circularity make business sense? Because for Sealand, circularity wasn't born out of this desire to solve a big global issue. It was something much simpler, and it started with us seeing value where others saw waste. Now, just to give you a brief introduction to Sealand, Sealand Gear is a South African outdoor and lifestyle brand focusing on using upcycled, recycled, and responsibly sourced materials to make into highly functional, highly durable outdoor gear and apparel. We are a certified B Corp and certified 1% for the planet business. And we believe that essentially our ethos is that we believe businesses, of course, should be used for force for good. And we're committed to supporting people, our partners, and the planet. And together we prove that great gear can make a difference with our sort of internal mission being together we make our planet better. So we can move on to the next slide, please, Gabby. Awesome. So I think we all have a bit of an understanding on what circularity is. But at its core, circularity is about keeping products and materials in their highest possible value for as long as possible. So instead of this traditional linear model of take resources, make a product, use the product, dispose of the product, so the circular model aims to design for use, for repair, to be reused, and then repurposed and put back and reintroduced into the cycle, whilst extracting the maximum value of products and materials throughout their lifetime. For the global textile industry, it's increasingly important because the current system is fundamentally linear. We extract resources, manufacture products, sell them, use them very, very briefly if you look at how these products are actually used, and then we discard them. And with applying the circularity model, it changes that. And it asks the questions, how do we keep materials in circulation? How do we extend the product lifespan? And how do we eliminate waste before it's actually even created? So taking a much more upstream approach, and how do we solve this before it actually becomes a problem? And in a South African context, well, it's slightly different, given the nature of how our economy operates. While many circular economy conversations, like in Europe, for example, focuses on recycling infrastructure and policy and regulation, our challenge and opportunities are far more immediate. We have resource constraints, we have high unemployment, we have growing waste streams, a lack of infrastructure to deal with this waste, and we have highly entrepreneurial communities. Circularity in its fundamental state has actually been present within South Africa for a very, very long time. And if you think back to, and very present in our informal economies, I don't know how many of you have seen a car, like if you go to like a curio shop, for example, and you see a little car made out of wire and tin cans and chip packets, and that's sort of the first and most basic form of circularity. And it stems from this same understanding that this material that is now become waste, it serves its original purpose, but it can be entirely rethought, and a new product can be made out of that. We can add new value to that waste, and it gets a new lifespan in its new form. And that can be applied across a variety of industries and mindsets, and all the way down from a low wire car to gear to you name it, it can grow. And importantly, in South Africa, we have an opportunity to create local economic value from materials that are currently being discarded. So in South Africa, circularity shouldn't just be an environmental conversation. It should be seen as an economic opportunity, about local manufacturing, about job creation, about skills development, and ultimately about resource efficiency, creating more value from materials that we already have. So the beginning of Sealand, sort of just to jump straight into that, and as I mentioned, Sealand's journey with circularity began from a very simple idea, and what that was is, as I mentioned, the exact same sort of principles behind. I'm going to use the tin can chip packet wire car as the example. Is we weren't thinking about the circular economy. We certainly weren't talking about ESG or a lot of the sort of sustainability charged buzzwords that we are faced with at the moment in today's current climate. But what we did understand is waste is a design flaw. And so we had these things like yacht sails and kite and these super technical, super durable, super valuable materials that after serving their initial purpose as a sail or a kite, and it gets a rip and it's not repairable and its integrity has been compromised, it cannot be used as a kite anymore. But what do you do with it? And these materials are really, they're engineered to survive some of the harshest conditions and literally hold the lives of human beings in them. But once this initial purpose has been served, what do we do with it? It just becomes waste. But what if it wasn't waste? What if it was a resource? And that literal thought of, okay, well, we have a resource, we have a need, which is to create highly durable and functional gear. Because the people that are doing the sailing and the kiting and all of that, or a lot of traveling, you need really durable gear that can last a long time. And this material that's now being wasted is an extremely amazing resource to achieve that. So it began not because it was the sustainable thing to do, but because it made sense. There's a free resource sitting right there to be used. And these materials were available. So it solved a real business question. And as Sealand grew, our understanding of circularity evolved. Initially, circularity was simply about material sourcing, but today it influences almost every part of our business, because we realize that true circularity isn't about where the materials come from. It's about what happens throughout the entire lifespan of the product. How long does the product last? How can it be repaired? And that sort of process, how can it be reused? How can it be refurbished? How can it have a second life after its initial use as a Sealand bag? And then that starts to go into how you design the products. You design them so that they can be repairable with materials that is easily repairable. Or if the bag can't be reused, then the bag needs to be made in a way that it's easy to deconstruct it into its original components, the panel of recycled ripstop or a panel of yacht sail and a panel of all the way, so that there's no sort of like blending of materials, so that these materials can then be either reprocessed or recycled through mechanical or chemical recycling. But basically it's that the whole design philosophy needs to be included in the process of making this product from the beginning, and not just simply an afterthought at the end. And sort of one of the most important things we've learned is that circularity only works when it creates value. Consumers don't really buy products because it's circular. They buy products because they're useful, because they're durable. So when you're designing for a product to become durable, a consumer is not buying it because, oh, it's a circular product. They're buying it because they're going to get a hell of a lot of value out of using this product for a long time. Because they are, or yeah, also because the gear looks good, or the gear serves a really awesome purpose or a function. And so circularity becomes extremely powerful when it enhances those things, not when it competes with them. So for us, the strongest circular product is simply the one that doesn't need replacing. It's the one that can stay in its the highest point in the value chain, which is when it's being used for as long as possible. And so that idea led to our Evergreen Guarantee, which is essentially our repair initiative, where we do free gear repairs for 10 years on all gear. And what that does is it gives the consumer, this bag will last you for at least 10 years, and we keep it um, we promise to repair it when it does get damaged, so that the bag does stay in that highest point in the value chain, and we will still repair it afterwards. But we need to also have this element of like, is it a sustainable practice for us? So after 10 years, we charge basically just for the labor of repairing the product, and often after 10 years, it's a lot more of a harder issue, like a panel needs to be completely replaced because it's worn all the way down. Um, so, sorry, I'm just losing myself in my notes a little bit. Because every product is repaired, is a product that doesn't need to be replaced. Not every product stays. Every product stays in use as a product, continues to create value, not only for the customer, but for the business as well. And then beyond second wave, I'm just trying to see how much time, a couple of minutes. We also created another scheme called Second Wave, which is our refurbishment and resale program. And traditionally, most brands lose visibility and value the moment a product leaves the store. Um, and but those products still have value, often many years of value. So Second Wave allows us to recover, repair, and refurbish, and then reintroduce those products back into circulation. Again, not because it's fashionable, but because it makes sense. It extends the product life. After its initial use, how many times have you bought something, used it a couple of times, and then it sits in your cupboard or it sits in your house for a long time because it doesn't suit your style, or your needs have changed, and now you have this thing. It still holds so much value, maybe not to you. So we need to create those channels that allow for other people to now use that product. So it extends the product life. An amazing thing for us is that it also creates customer touch points and builds loyalty and adds credibility to us as a business, and reinforces the actual quality of the original product. It reinforces the fact that these things were made to last and intended to last for a long time. And looking ahead, circularity at Sealand will always continue to evolve. We're exploring things like a digital product passport that allows us to actually have full traceability, and not only allows us, but also consumers to have full traceability over all the materials that are in the product, all the way to when it is sold, who owns it, and then how it can be used therefore, which is an incredible project for us to work on. And we're certainly learning a lot about it, and it's really helping us hold our supply chain accountable. So it's been awesome to work on that, strengthening our repair systems, looking for new ways. How can we better repair our bags? How can we better repair our apparel, and our garments in a way that also makes commercial sense, but also looks after our customers and the products that we make. So sort of just to close off, the question is, does circularity make business sense? And for Sealand, the answer is 100 times yes. Not because it helps us tell a better sustainability story, no, not at all, but because it helps us actually build better products. It helps us create stronger relationships with our customers, and it helps us extract more value from resources. And because of that, it helps us reduce waste and ultimately build a much more resilient business. The biggest lesson from our journey is that circularity works best when it isn't treated as a separate sustainability initiative. It works when it becomes part of how a business creates value. It's not a strategy, it's a value creation strategy. Cool. That was my very brief TED talk. Thank you for bearing with me as I rushed through all of that.
Thank you so much, Braden. That was amazing. That was so informative. And I'm sure there's questions. If you have a question, please feel free to just ask Braden your question. And while you're asking the questions, please take the time to just fill in our survey here. But Braden, I'm super. I really loved the statement where you said circular economy needs to create value
Yeah,
and have purpose for people, and I think that is just really what the whole ethos of circularity is. I mean, not more than sustainability. It's really about value, and for you guys, someone can actually feel that value like tangibly, like in your garment. So, with that said, does anyone have a question or comment? Please unmute, ask your question. This is your opportunity.
see, there's a hand raised, but I can't see where it
Esty,
is.
Yeah, SD.
Esty,
So
let's hear it.
I pasted the text. So I'm very curious on the supply chain traceability that you guys are doing. And I'm wondering how you guys are doing that. Is it like with a system and suppliers have to submit things? Is it a process? Do you guys go to site visits, etc., to see it? Like how do you actually trace this to know that
Mhm.
this bag that I have comes from those places and those suppliers?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Thank you to that. I mean, so the beauty of the way that we've done business is that we have an incredible relationship with all of our suppliers, all the way to the thread suppliers. So all the way to the smallest supplier, which is incredible for us. And so we started just mapping this out, I guess, manually. And then we have worked with a company called ICL on a pilot for this traceability software with theirs, where essentially, because we have this incredible relationship with our suppliers, we've chatted to them and got them to agree to upload all the information for everything we get from each supplier onto this sort of system that we have. So it allows us to basically keep an overview, and we can set the parameters of basically what they need to upload and keep track of it. But it's also done through direct communication with them. We have done site visits to almost every site. There are a couple of ones that we haven't got to yet, which are our Mauritius-based organic cotton ones, but they've got incredible sustainability certificates that have allowed us to verify the information, and we do have a great like personal relationship with them. We just haven't unfortunately been able to get on site. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
That's
Thanks, Esty.
superb. Thanks for that question, Esty. Does anyone else have a question? Go for it, Stefan. The floor is yours.
Hi guys, apologies, the camera
Good
sits over
afternoon.
there and I'm looking on the big screen here, so but luckily you got my better side.
Hey, we can see that.
I myself work for an organization that is contributing to the fashion crisis, but also working hard to address those issues. I've got a two-part question here. The first is sustainability is fantastic, but if we look at environmental impact, one of the main issues we have to also address is local production. Because the moment you produce elsewhere, that has other environmental impacts over and above the sustainability. So we have to look at local production as a starting point to transform these values, because that will limit the impact that fashion has on the industry. Transport of fashion across the world is contributing hugely to a lot of the issues we face. So that's the first part question. The second part question is, if we are looking at recycled material, and I like the term used earlier, that it is a resource. And without being critical here, very appreciative of the brand, and I wear their caps. They only go to 3XL, so the caps and the bags are all I use, because the shirts, they don't have big enough sales apparently to make 5 and 6XL. But is the price range. And I understand that on a quality product, you want to attach a value. If value is attached, maybe the customer will look after it better. It's the old adage of buy an expensive pen and then you're not going to lose it. Whereas if you buy a cheap pen, you might lose it and then replace. So I understand that. But if we are using recycled products, is there not a possibility for us to really start affecting price, because we do find that price at the end of the day is a major driving force for a customer, which is why we struggle to compete with the Shanes and the Timus of the world, because the customer might have good intentions at heart, but economically, that matric for well dressed, they'd rather just buy off Shane and get it at a much cheaper price, regardless of the impact, because of the pressures by the economy. So Sealand, great products, but it's a high premium product, and that limits the scope of the market, because somebody can go to any one of our other brands in the country and buy a cap for 25-30% cheaper, and technically get the same function, maybe not the longevity, but also we've created a culture where they look to replace it within 2 years anyway. So maybe just I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks so much for the question. I'm trying to remember the first part, but I think I do. In terms of, yes, 100%, a large part of the impact of our sort of textile economy in terms of sustainability, and if we're going to say like environmental impact, is local production, or the need for local production. And that is something that Sealand strongly believes in. We've worked over the last 11 years of our business to achieve 90% of production as local production, most of it in Cape Town and then some in Durban. The other 4% is based in Mauritius, and the reason for that is just South Africa's organic cotton doesn't unfortunately match what we need for international standard, and it's also sort of that there's so many, and it's probably one of the biggest issue or challenges within the textile industry is all of these trade-offs you have to face between wanting something local but also wanting a certified, globally competitive product where you can substantiate your claims. So that's a tricky thing, but we have intent, and we're working with the GOTS global sort of office to maybe try to come up with a solution, because the problem there is that there's so much barrier to entry for South African small businesses that then they can't actually afford to pay the extreme prices for these sustainability certificates. And so, yeah, it's sort of a catch-22. So whilst the business, as we've decided, we unfortunately can't wait, but as using, say, this Mauritian production is allowing us to grow, create demand, and then once we grow into a point where that we can actually maybe even fund a group GOTS certification kind of thing. So we've always got that in the back of our minds, is how can we localize anything that isn't local. So it's our organic cotton, and then the other part is the specific range of our gear. Our commuter range is made in Indonesia with a company called Tasindo. And they are blue sign, highest sustainability credentials that you can find. And again, the issue there is that the infrastructure that they use currently doesn't exist in South Africa. But we are working with them to try and see if we can create any local alternatives. And they've been amazing working with them to try and do that. And it's something we've set out from the beginning to do. Again, it's just sort of that we unfortunately are still such a small player that when you try to go to a big supplier and come with these ideas, they're like, well, your offtake is only going to be X amount of units. Unfortunately, that doesn't really make a difference to our numbers, so we can't help you. So it's navigating that is a big challenge. And then, sorry, I spent a lot of time on the first part. For the second part was price. Yes, it's also it's sort of a chicken before the egg situation here, because unfortunately, and this is a problem in many industries, the recycled resource, if we can say, is often more expensive than the virgin alternative, which makes it an extremely tricky way of doing business, because that means that the product made with recycled materials is going to be more expensive than the product made with virgin materials, which means there will always be the demand for lack of a better word, the less sustainable product, which again is a tricky thing to navigate. And it's like, well, where does that start? Like, you need to be able to create demand or enough demand for the recycled resource that its price drops down, or that there's enough investment into the infrastructure and innovation that the price drops down to a point where it is actually competitive with the virgin material. Unfortunately, that is a a global issue that needs to be addressed. And I think it's I don't know if it needs to be addressed through policy. There are working groups sort of working on it. There's some amazing groups like the Cape Textile Cluster, which we're a part of. There's another one. I forget the official name of it, but it's a working group to improve the circular economy for the textile industry within South Africa. And there's many of these that are active around the world. These are just the ones I've mentioned are just the ones we're very involved with here in Cape Town. So yeah, I guess that's more of a systematic issue. And maybe that one that we all as change agents need to seek to address, and how can we keep advocating for and drive demand and investment into innovation and infrastructure that will help make the sustainable alternatives more available, and bring down that barrier to entry for many people. Sorry, I waffled on a little bit, but I hope that answers your question.
That's completely fine, Braden. That was so insightful, and thank you so much, Stefan, for those thought-provoking questions. There's one more question from John, and I know we're like 3 minutes over, but Braden, can we take this one?
I'm happy.
John?
Yeah, no worries.
Let's hear your burning question.
No, thank you so much and good afternoon. Yeah, basically, I'm just thinking Braden talking about the recycled material being expensive. Given the policy, the EPR, extended producer responsibility, what are the chances or the alternatives of industrial symbiosis where they don't necessarily have to buy, the waste material? What are the dynamics there? Is it something doable? That's what I wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, the issue isn't so much the waste material, it's the processing of the waste material to make it a usable recycled resource. For example, take an rPET fabric. So an rPET fabric. All right. I don't know if it's me. I'm going. John, maybe you can. Okay, there we go.
That was someone else. Sorry.
Oh, good.
It's okay.
I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but it's not so much the resource. To take rPET, for example, which is a recycled polyethylene fabric. So it takes plastic bottles, which is free and very, very all over the place. Anything made out of PET, plastic bottles, plastic bottle caps. You take that, and if you ground it down into plastic flakes and then make it go through a process called extrusion, which is applying a lot of heat and pressure to it, and it comes out on the other side as like a super thin strand. And then what happens is you weave that strand. This is a process that we do with one of our suppliers, and you weave that strand into a thread, or spin that strand into a thread, and then use that thread to make a canvas material. It's awesome. We've managed to make an extremely strong and durable canvas material. Unfortunately, the cost of operating a machine and actually processing this free resource that we have, which is awesome, all the cost lies in this initial processing, which is because it's it's a really expensive piece of equipment. It costs a lot to run. And then the process of spinning it thereafter is very technical, and the word eludes me at the moment, but yeah, it's a tricky process, and the same stands true for most mechanical or chemical recycling processes. It's actually the physical process of recycling and processing it into a usable resource or into its new form that makes it so expensive. So until we can start doing that on a large enough scale, the cost will always be embedded into the production.
Super. Thank you so much, Braden, for that. Braden, I just really want to thank you for joining our session today, and thank you so much to our community for being part of the session and even staying till 6 minutes over time. I think let's just call it here. If there's any other questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll send them to Braden and we'll send it with the post-event email. And we'll also share the recording to this session. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate you spending half an hour listening to me.
Thank you guys. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cool.